thank Taoiseach for his reply. Taoiseach, just having had a quick perusal some time ago of the report, two of the items that I just want to quickly refer to is Northern Ireland and the Northern Ireland section and the terrorism sections. I've had the privilege of representing Cavan Monaghan over a number of decades, and during that time, thankfully, we've gone from a very troubled area to an era of peace, thankfully down to the Good Friday Agreement and the good work that brought about that particular agreement. One thing that always struck me was the huge and committed work of our defence forces and our Garda Síochána and other emergency services during that time when our state was under attack. And the configuration of our Garda Síochána throughout that era, and I think really since the founding of our Garda Síochána, was the Cavan Monaghan Garda Division. Now recently there has been a proposed reconfiguration of Garda services, and Cavan Monaghan is now being put in with County Louth as one Garda division, which is, in my layperson's opinion, is crazy stuff. During that era, when our Garda Síochána faced huge threats and our state faced huge threats, they carried out their work in a very committed and diligent way. The structures responded to ensuring that our communities were protected in the configuration that existed. We take it now, our Chief Superintendent has been based in Monaghan as the headquarters of the Cavan Monaghan Garda Division. That headquarters is now being transferred to Drogheda, County Louth. We know Drogheda is practically on the outskirts of Dublin. It's not far from this chamber to Drogheda, but it's a long way from this chamber to the west of Cavan to Blacklion or Dowra. And you take it along the long land border that there is between Louth, Monaghan and Cavan. I don't know who came up with that proposal, but it's one Taoiseach and of course the Minister and the Department have always given the answer that it's a matter for Garda operational decision makers. But we have to look at what worked in the past and what was successful during a very difficult era. We need that local decision making. A Chief Superintendent in Drogheda, the outskirts of Dublin, will not be familiar with the needs of communities in the far end of West Cavan or the north of Monaghan as well. And allied to that, Taoiseach, is the fact that we lost Dooney Nail Barracks. We don't have an army barracks in the central border region. And again, the local knowledge that Garda Síochána members had, that the members of our permanent defence forces had, along with the knowledge of other emergency services, they contributed in a big way to saving lives and protecting our community. And I would ask government to revisit again the proposed reconfiguration of Garda operations. Thank you again, Corla.
Yeah, just once again, want to thank deputies for their questions. Deputy Smith touched on the issue of the risk of terrorism, which remains a live risk and not one, I'm afraid, that we can be complacent about. And essentially, we've documented three categories of risk there. One being an attack from a loyalist or Republican paramilitary organisation. The second being a domestic attack, perhaps from our own far right or far left or some other extremist group. And the third would be terrorism of an international dimension, most likely some form of religious extremism. And we have to be wise to the risk of that happening. We've seen it happen in countries like New Zealand, for example, and small countries around the world where you don't expect major terrorist attacks to happen, but they do. We need to be wise to the fact that that could happen here as well. And there have been multi-agency operations and training for that possibility should it ever occur, and hopefully it never does. Both Deputy Smith and Deputy Murku drew my attention to plans to merge Cavan Monaghan and Louth into a single Garda division. My understanding is that this is part of general plans to have larger divisions as part of a modern policing service. It is something that ultimately is a matter for the Garda Commissioner, but I can certainly make sure that he's made aware of the Deputy's views and the Minister as well.